Kia ora. Today I'll be showing you how we put down a hāngī. Hāngī is basically a traditional way of cooking here in the Pacific, where the food is cooked in a earth oven kind of pit, which we call a umu. And we basically heat up the rocks until they're white hot, place the food on the rocks, and cover the food in leaves and soil, let it steam cook for a few hours, and it's just a natural way of cooking food fresh from your garden. And not only because you get those earthy flavors and that smell infused into the food, but for gardeners you also get a bit of ash, a bit of biochar and mulch at the end of it. So first you need an earth oven pit, which we call an umu, and the depth and size of it varies according to how many people you're going to be cooking for. Our one here is just a small scale one, but we use this one quite often. So we line the bottom with rocks and the sides as well to make it kind of like a bowl, and it's just to generate a bit more heat. We also use volcanic rocks, and these are the best because they have the best heat retention properties, and they don't split when they heat up. They don't explode, and so these volcanic rocks are quite important, and not only in Māori but also Polynesian culture. I guess it's because of their kind of primal and ancient qualities, and we believe that they're actually imbued with a mauri, or kind of like a life force or energy, primal energy, and they're also taken on traditional ocean voyaging canoe around the Pacific, just to acknowledge the spiritual connections to ancestral lands. So they hold that meaning as well. They're also often used as tribal markers, or to protect or preserve kind of natural areas from being over cultivated or overfished, or over harvested, over hunted, and so they're just used as a marker. The cooking rocks used in hāngī or umu are often, in the old days, they were often passed down from generation to generation. So it's kind of cool being able to connect. You use the rocks which ancestors have been using, so they're kind of like heirloom rocks, and they're used to cook the same food which your ancestors have been using for their heating, for their cooking. The hardwood that we use here is I use mostly local timber that I've got just in this area here, like tītoki and pūriri. But most commonly one used is mānuka or kanuka, and these just have they're slow burning kind of a wood, and they also give a nice smoky kind of flavour to the hāngī as well. So while our rocks are heating up, I'll give you a bit of a background to the hāngī and why we do it. Basically, this way of cooking is kind of the heart and soul of Māori and other Pacific Island cultures. It's not just about the food either. It's the whole process of doing a hāngī, of getting together with family, with people, and harvesting your own local food, either from the land or from the sea, and collecting the materials used for heating, for wrapping, preparing materials and cooking it, and then after the eating bit's done, we also return all of those materials back to the earth, and it's so it's a very slow process. It's I guess it's the opposite of fast food culture, because everything is done just really slowly, and there's no rush. It's a very raw kind of primal process as well, where you get, because you're cooking in the earth, you're steam cooking, you're using all these rocks and the heat, where you could just get back to the basics, really, the basics of cooking. There's a there is a bit of work involved in it, but it's part of it's part of it. It's an important part of it. Working together, cooperating together, and it keeps you grounded. Grounded to each other, grounded to the land, grounded to to the environment. It allows you to connect to all of those things that are important, and it also nourishes you. It nourishes you physically, but also spiritually, socially, and culturally, because it's such an ancient tradition. There's actually a heap of different ways of cooking Hāngī. There's no one way which is the right way. There's a lot of variations in the way it's done, not only here in Aotearoa, but throughout the Pacific. There's all different kind of methods which are used, and it also varies depending on the local resources and the ingredients that are used. And just as there are for other cultures, there's no dish is the same. The way I do it is not necessarily the right way. It's just the way that we use according to our resources here and the way I've been taught. So next we're going to get some seasoning, some kinaki, just to give our Hāngī a bit of a unique flavour, extra flavour. And everyone's got their different ways of doing it, different leaves. So I'm going to use some kumara leaves, kawakawa, and some kōkihi, just some local herbs that we use. Got some kawakawa here which we can use. This is one of our most important medicinal crops. Very important herb for Māori. Got a few kawakawa berries here, which we can also chuck in. Alright, so we've got our food ready. We've got our meat in this dish. And we've got our kumara, taro, cabbage, and what else we got in there? A bit of kōkihi. It's traditional spinach, and other greens like kawakawa. And we've got some kumara slips in there as well, sweet potato slips, just the leaves. So it's ready to go in. So we'll just cover these with banana leaves. And they're ready to go on the Hāngī now. So while the water's heating up on the rocks, we just need to ensure that all the rocks are heating up evenly. And this part usually takes a couple of hours so that we can get all the rocks white hot. And when we can see that they're all evenly hot, we can remove any bits of wood and then even out the rocks just to flatten it out a bit, so that we've got something to place our food over. Depending on what type of flavour you want, you can totally remove like all the coal, all the ashes, but we like to leave it on. Just leave it in there just to give it a bit more of a smoky kind of a flavour. It also helps to kind of roast it a bit more as well. Yeah, it just depends on what your preferences are. You can have a real steamy kind of a flavour or more of a roasted effect. We place what we do is we put the shredded banana stems, we shred them and then we place them over the top of the rocks just to prevent the food from burning. And so that's like the first layer, and you can put the food straight on top, but we also sometimes put leaves like these, puka leaves, which are another traditional way of cooking. And usually the meat goes on first because it takes the longest to cook, and so then we put the vegetables usually on top of the meat. And you know, as I said, if you want a more of a roasted, like if you want the meat to crackle up a bit, you don't need to use these stems. You can just put it straight on and it kind of roasts it, and they do it like that more in Samoa, I believe. So yeah, today we're using these tinfoil containers, but you can just place it straight on the rocks, or you can wrap it up in banana leaves, or you can wrap. The traditional way here is to wrap them up in little, like a kono, which is made from flax leaves, and you can just place them on like that. And sometimes it's good to have the juice kind of and the fats coming out and seeping down onto the rocks just to create a bit of smokiness. Or you can have it just more, if you want a more tender meat, you can just put it in these tinfoil where it just holds in all the moisture. Next we get our banana leaves and we just basically cover the whole Hāngī pit up. In the old days they used a lot more leaves. Nowadays we use wet sacks like these ones, or we use, sometimes people just use sheets, but the more leaves the better. And once we've covered it up, we bury it. We just put soil over the top and we just let it steam cook. Make sure there's no steam getting out, and we just let it cook for a few hours. Right, so we've got our Hāngī in. We've covered it in soil. Just make sure there's no steam getting out. And all we've got to do now is wait. So depending on how much and how many people you're cooking for, it takes anything from 2 hours up to 4 hours. And just want to make sure it's you don't pull it out too early. Just make sure everything is cooked. So at least 2 hours. Basically depends on how much food you got in there. We've only got some just for a small whānau, small family, so just only a couple of hours for this one, and then we'll be able to take it out. So our Hāngī's been in for how long? 2 hours? 2.5 hours, so it's ready to take it out now.
That's right, you are. Right. Wait, did it go over? Maybe it hot.
Let's put up the other side. So it's just me and Mama.
I don't know. How about he doesn't need?
Yep.
Enemy.
Still quite a fair bit of heat coming off this, so I'll wait for it to die down a bit and then we'll clean it up. So our Hāngī's ready, all ready to be served up. We've got our rewana, bread, chicken, pork, and over here we've got our taro, kumara, and a bit of cabbage, and we've also got our kōkihi, our sweet potato shoots, and the kawakawa leaves. Ready to eat. Mauri ora. Alright, we're at day 3 of our Hāngī, and today we're going to clean up all these, all the coals, all the ash, all of all the resources we used, the leaves, and all the banana stems and stuff like this. And we're going to return it all back to the land, back to the earth, so we don't waste anything. All the ash is good for the bananas. We sprinkle it around the bananas, and the sweet potato, the kumara, also likes a bit of ash, a bit of coal. So we'll give it back, and so we can keep recycling. So all of our food, we keep replenishing our food supplies, and we keep building our soil. It's not just about taking. We've got heaps of food from our Hāngī to last us a couple of days, but we also want to give back as well. So all of this is going back into the soil. We'll use all this. This will go back to mulch our trees. And the bits of coal like this, we'll make this into a biochar. We'll just put it into the soil, and we'll put some of this in our chicken coop just to absorb some of the smell from the chickens, as well as make a bit of compost in the chicken coop using all this. Right, so we've got our rocks out of the umu, out of the Hāngī pit, and we've cleaned up our pit, so it's all ready for next time. Yeah, we just spread all this stuff over the garden. We're going to mulch this up, mulch our trees, and we're going to get our coal and our ash and sprinkle it, spread it around our garden. Especially like the ash. All of our burnt leaves also goes back on. Burnt banana leaves. Put it over the ash, over the coals. Like I said, you know, the way we do a hāngī is, there's no one way of doing it. Heaps of different ways, different recipes, different materials. It's all about using whatever's available to you locally, whatever food's available, whatever you've got in your garden, and and valuing those local resources rather than getting in those imports, relying on the market, and valuing our traditions, our food culture, our horticultural practices, and all of that knowledge. So that's it. Mauri ora.